Well, if you've seen the title below, you can easily tell what we're going to be talking about today. But really, um, what more can you say about this? This was what we'd been saying from the very beginning, time after time after time, of the big Brexiteers from Nigel Farage, Jacob Rees-Mogg, to even people who financially donated to the Leave campaign, like James Dyson, even though he no longer does any manufacturing in the UK and has actively moved it even more out of the UK. Even his headquarters is now no longer officially in the UK. And yet this is the guy who, again, supporting Brexit Britain because apparently it will make the UK better in some nebulous way, but, any tiny shred of thing that they can, grab onto, I suppose. So, let's get down to business, shall we? So, today's article comes from the London Economic, and it's Brexit leaders prove that the campaign to leave the EU was entirely driven by self-interest. It was with a dismissive sweep that Nigel Farage mentioned that he would just leave Britain if Brexit was a disaster. Speaking on his LBC show, the outspoken campaigner claimed that he never promised that it would be a huge success, that we will be self-governing. That's the point, he said. I never said it would be a beneficial thing to leave and everyone would be better off. He did say those things on numerous occasions, but what his comments confirm is that regardless of the success or failure of Brexit, he will be all right. He will still be widely consulted for his views on international political issues and populist revolts against the political establishment. And people will continue to attend his overseas speaking engagements because Brexit delivered for Farage all that it was intended to. A bombshell moment to underscore his political credentials. As far as one man is concerned, it was a resounding success. Most other figures involved in the campaign to divorce Britain from the European Union have little to worry about either. Former Vote Leave chairman Nigel Lawson has already applied for his carte de séjour in France, a document that secures his rights to remain in Gascony post-Brexit. And Jacob Rees-Mogg is in a line for a huge personal windfall when Britain exits the single market, thanks to a large stake in an emerging market investment firm. John Redwood also has his financials in order as well, advising investors to avoid Britain as the country's economy hits the brakes. That's despite promising that the economic gains of leaving the EU will be considerable before the referendum. It all goes to show that regardless of how Brexit pans out, those who led the campaign are shielded from its repercussions, whereas most of those who voted for it are not. It's a scary predicament to think that those who made the promises have no exposure to the consequences when they don't get what's delivered. They could just have promised anything, and they probably did. And there you go. What more is there to that? It's what we've been saying, really, since the beginning. And I'm pretty sure you could go and find through all of Farage's speeches, I'm actually promising that it would make people's lives better in some way, shape or form. I guarantee you, if you went and looking through his and started combing through his speeches, I bet you would find that. And the problem is a lot of people do actually think like that because his speeches were aimed at being, rah-rah, ooh-rah-rah speeches. The UK is going to be great. We're going to be, we're going to be sovereign. We're going to be independent. All those things were attached. I've just done a stream this morning where at the end I was just consistently saying to people to hammer it home the problems of this country were never caused by the EU. They were caused exactly by governments not investing in towns, and even more by the Tories, and especially the Tory austerity policy. That is what has caused so many people so much economic upset. What makes them feel that they've been left behind is because of that. And now, again, it's funny to think that this was run as an anti-establishment campaign. But the people who are leading this campaign are nowhere near anything like that. They are establishment themselves. They are pretty much established as establishment as you can get. Yep, here we are, about to leave, and then all these people, they're not going to suffer any consequences from Brexit. And as I said there, some of them are going to have considerable economic windfalls because of it. Farage has just said, yeah, well, I'm just going to leave if it's a disaster. You know? And it is on course to be quite the disaster. Nothing's ready or even in place. We have regulatory bodies that should have been created and in place to take over the ones from the EU. There are about 65, I think it is, EU bodies that currently help and oversee and regulate and enforce things from chemical standards, regulations, to how they're disposed, created, transported, to food, animal livestock, you name it. You've got to have people to make sure that those are in place. They don't exist, which should be incredibly worrying. And then you've got things like, you may remember a couple of years ago, the big thing about aviation regulations and standards, about the European standards, and about how we're not going to join that. That has gone very suspiciously quiet as well, because that could hugely damage the British aviation industry if they don't follow European standards. All these things have consequences, and those will result in job losses and people losing their jobs. And, unfortunately, it really is going to be the thing of, it'll be like a year or 2 years down the line, people are going to realise, well, I thought things would be better, and they're not. Why is that? And I keep on saying there is going to be a massive upswell in anger at the Brexiteers, which will be good, because finally they will get some sort of comeuppance, and hopefully Farage will lose his support completely through that, and he will just not be welcomed anywhere in the country. We can live and we can dream in hope, but that's what I'm hoping for. And when Farage, I predict that if it does turn out, this anger does turn, I can see Farage trying to launch a party, or rebranding the Brexit Party as the Reform Party, as he's often said recently, to try and capitalise on that anger and try and get people to make reforms. But they aren't going to be reforms that are going to benefit us in any good way. They're going to be reforms that look good on paper, but in reality they're not really that good. Me and Nigel Farage are on the same page of, we need to get rid of the House of Lords, but my solution is to replace it with a proportional representative vote that represents the whole of this country. I don't know what Farage's solution would actually be to that problem. I suspect it might be different, and that's where I wouldn't work with Farage, even if he stood on a platform of, we need to get rid of the House of Lords. My response would be, I'm with you on that, but what's your solution? If you don't have a solution, there's no point really getting rid of the House of Lords. So, but anyway, that's another story. I'm getting to the topic. So anyway, thank you for watching, and we'll see you all next time.